inviting you to join me when I made it to San Francisco. And sure enough, when I ran across the Golden Gate Bridge on November 28, 1986, I was accompanied by a large contingent of San Francisco frontrunners. Back in 1990, I followed through with the idea that we should have our own torch run from San Francisco, the Athens of the Gay Games, to Gay Games 3 in Vancouver, British Columbia. But after our tortured history with the United States Olympic Committee denying Tom Waddell and San Francisco Arts and Athletics use of the word Olympic, Olympic torch wasn't the right symbol. However, Gilbert Baker's rainbow flag for the global gay community would do the trick. Today marks the 9th such effort to bring the rainbow flag from here as a symbolic torch to the Gay Games, and San Francisco frontrunners has been involved in one way or the other through all of them. So on behalf of the Federation of Gay Games and all of the participating groups in the International Rainbow Memorial Run, I want to thank San Francisco frontrunners for their decades-long participation and support. And a huge thank you to Reggie Snowden for organizing the inaugural leg of the Rainbow Run to 2 simultaneous hosts for Gay Games 11 in 2 different hemispheres, Guadalajara and Hong Kong. See you in November. Wow.
You guys are still doing your regular Saturday runs, but you're invited to join us for the runs that we're going to do. It's a shorter memorial run. Basically, the route is a little bit different than what you guys have probably seen. We are still going to run to the AIDS Memorial Grove for a brief ceremony, and then we're going to run to the opening of Kezar Stadium for a very brief ceremony and a retrospect of cities that Gay Games have been to. And then the last part we've changed up because there's a March for Life going on right now, or this morning at City Hall. So instead, we're going to reroute and hit the Visadero and go right and then end the run in the Castro instead at Dave Warner Plaza for the last portion of the ceremony. So
City Hall's in a crappy neighborhood.
afterwards, when you guys decide what runs you're doing, we're going to get a quick picture. If you're welcome to stay for the picture, that would be wonderful. Thank you very much, and a huge thanks for Brent for flying out to help kick this off.
Or hold your tongue forever.
So just the drivers.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
4. All right, 2 more minutes until we start. 2 minutes.
Reggie, I do have a couple things I want to say about the Grove.
Son.
Once again, thank you very much. If you guys have not been to AIDS Memorial Grove, is there anyone who has not been here? You will learn about it somewhat today. Please look it up. There's all kinds of great history here, which is why this is our first start. Where the games were born. Dr. Tom Waddell, a U.S. Olympic decathlete in Mexico City, 1968, had a vision of bringing the energy of the Olympics event to the LGBTQI community by creating a first gay Olympic Games. His hope was to bring together individuals from different backgrounds of experiences, and through participation and inclusion in these games, they would leave changed, empowered, and a more positive outlook. Thank you for being a part of this today. As we mentioned earlier, this is actually a groundbreaking year for the Federation of Gay Games with having 2 host cities of Gay Games. How many people here have actually been to Gay Games? I love it. So yeah, in November, it'll be in Guadalajara. It'll be in Hong Kong. I've already registered for Hong Kong because I've been working with that crew and the committees over there with putting on a great sports event. The facilities are amazing. We are in Guadalajara in November for the Federation AGA meeting and saw a handful of the facilities that also looked great. So I'm going to turn this right on over to Gene. We have an honorary lifetime member of the Federation of Gay Games, Gene DiMarti. He's right here.
Hi, everyone. Just so you know who I am, my name is Gene Dermody. I'm from New York, New Jersey, NYU. I was a high school chemistry teacher and wrestling coach for 15 years. And then I moved to San Francisco, and I've been here 40 years. Yes, 40 years.
And you haven't lost the accent.
Well,
That's a good thing.
it's a good thing. It's 40 years ago that Gay Games was here, and I just have to tell you, Gay Games was a transformational event. And then if you know anybody who came to those early games, their lives were changed forever. In my case, I was a snooty, smug, narcissistic wrestler. I was gay, but I lived in a closet. And I came out here thinking this was just another tournament. I'm going to kick some butt, win some medals, and maybe get laid. But that was to change so much. As soon as the entire thing started, Tom Waddell and the original organizers had a vision that was so far ahead of their times. And I'm just going to give you an example based on what I experienced that day. There was a man called Alan Abraham, a doctor, who was he was a Holocaust survivor guy. He was the wrestling coach at Columbia University when I was back there at NYU. And he was the wrestling coach at San Francisco State. He was enlisted to come and give the welcoming address to the wrestlers. Now, I'm just trying to give you an idea of what it was like. You have 70 wrestlers all ready to get out there and wrestle in their funny little clothes. And everybody's nervous and looking around thinking, am I going to be outed and lose my job? Dr. Abraham got up there and talked to us. He brought us to tears. And for wrestlers to do that right before a tournament is unheard of. And there was all this hugging, and as of course, the Russian officials go, you Americans hug too much. But it was the first thing that I noticed, like, wow, you mean to tell me my life can be different? Well, Tom Waddell's vision transformed me. I immediately called up the school I was working on. I remember Gay Games 1 was in the summer of September, or August, September. I just quit instantly and stayed, and school was already starting. I didn't leave for 40 years. And I started working San Francisco Community College. I taught some programming language, and then eventually I went down the peninsula and became a high-tech nerd. 40 years in San Francisco, we founded Golden Gate Wrestling, which ran out of Eureka Valley for 40 years. We just recently had to close it down because the COVID restrictions were impossible for wrestlers. You can't wear a mask when you wrestle, and we can't have you tested every week. It's just ridiculous. So we had to close it down after 40 years, but we did found Wrestlers Without Borders, which have wrestling clubs all around the country, around the world, and we just got back from Sin City, which you can attest to. It's taken off a life of its own. In my 40 years here, I was a member of Team San Francisco. That's where I know Norma. And Golden Gate Wrestling, obviously, at the Rec Center, Wrestlers Without Borders. Federation of Gay Games, I volunteered there for 40 years as well. And I served in every position you can think of. I was their tech person who got their first website up. I was their sports co-chair. I was their president. And I've worked with them just about forever. So you ask, like, why, Gene, would you devote so much of your life as a volunteer for something like this? Well, I think you have to think about being inspired by somebody who says, wouldn't you like your life to be far more meaningful instead of just going back to your little closet in New York and living like that? Living here in this environment, I was able to do things that made me feel very good, especially giving people the opportunity to compete, to travel, to go to gay games. that becomes part of your life, and it gives people hope and joy and satisfaction, and it gives it to me too. There's no money in this, but you get something far better. I'm going to give you an example of what we did as Golden Gate Wrestling that made us feel so good. In those early years in the 80s, all of a sudden, all the great stuff that happened at Gay Games was being taken back because of AIDS. We were being excluded. They were going to test us before we could wrestle. And yet at the time, if you got tested, you couldn't even get your name along with the test. So it was like all of a sudden we're back to being excluded again. Well, we were lucky. My boyfriend came down with Kaposi's in the late 70s, and I was in New York still. And we went to Sloan Kettering, and guess who our intern was? Tony Fauci.
Oh, wow.
And he sat us down and talked to us, and he gave me a bit of advice that proved to be incredibly accurate. He said, treat it like hepatitis and you'll probably be okay. Well, that little bit of information filtered down into Golden Gate Wrestling. California adopted that as the blood rule. That blood rule eventually made its way up to California, the USOC, and the IOC. The blood rule today is if you treat HIV like hepatitis, you're doing damn well. But it just goes to show you that you can have an effect if you stay involved and engaged. So, with that information, I'm going to do a little tribute to Tom Waddell because he inspired me to do all of this and it changed my life. So I'm going to be singing a song a cappella. This is Henry Krieger's song it was cut from Dreamgirls. I don't know why, it's a great song. Just give me a second here. I was lost in dark confusion and thought I'd have to stay. You had to fight for your own bit of light, but you held it high to light my way. Now thanks to you, my friend, I can see this tunnel's end, and I'll repeat till my dying day. What you're no longer here to say. Take the flame and pass it on. Spread your light and share the dawn. Grab your chance before it's gone. Take the flame and pass it on. You lit up the night with a bold design. You set us ablaze and allowed us to shine. Your love was the spark we built upon. Take the flame and pass it on. Your light will shine no matter who tries to extinguish the flame. This light of mine will burn for you, so the world will remember your name. It's a whole new game, we'll stake our claim. The past is over and gone. Take the flame, take the flame, take the flame and pass it on. Spread your light and spare the dawn. Grab your chance before it's gone. Take the flame and pass it on.
I wanted to be a background singer for that, but I can't follow that up.
You need the dress.
Yes. Thank you very much, Gene. And for those of you that don't know, Norma Lopez is a delegate to Team San Francisco, or to the Federation of Gay Games, representing Team San Francisco. In case you guys don't know Norma. Yep, and now we're back to
I
Brent.
won't be long. When I first ran the rainbow flag to the Gay Games, the AIDS Memorial Grove only existed as a dream and as an initiative. But ever since it became a reality and our permanent National AIDS Memorial, we have sought to include it in some way in the International Rainbow Memorial Run. The quadrennial journey of the rainbow flag as a symbolic torch to the Gay Games. Mother Nature was not so kind to our effort in 2010 to Gay Games 8 in Cologne, Germany. It was a very cold, foggy, and rainy February day here. I couldn't blame anyone for the poor turnout we had that day. Unfortunately, unbeknownst to me, as I ran the rainbow flag the mile from here to Kezar Stadium, the site of the opening and closing ceremonies for Gay Games 1 and 2, I was having my first of 4 heart attacks. Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi, who has been a stalwart supporter of the Grove, said on World AIDS Day in 2019, "May we find strength and comfort in our communities and in our shared desire to bring hope and healing to the millions of men, women, and children around the world living with HIV/AIDS. This disease is resilient and resourceful, ever mutating to escape destruction. We must be equally resourceful in our efforts to combat HIV/AIDS as we work to finally achieve an AIDS-free generation." Thank you, Nancy.
We did have Supervisor Raphael Mendelman. He's right here. I don't know if you guys saw. I was looking all around thinking, there he is. Native of San Francisco on his 2nd term as District 8 Supervisor.
Yeah.
We're proud to have Supervisor Raphael Mendelman.
Well, I'm here to just, I think you're getting more civic goodness at the end from Scott and maybe Matt Dorsey as well. But I wanted to be here for this leg of your journey. And I think it's really, this spot is always really poignant. And I think and it makes me then, you know, I've said this before, but I've been struck, I am continually struck by the ways in which tragedy and joy are interwoven in our queer history. And Jean talked a little bit, I think, about this, but the irony of the Gay Games starting in the same year that AIDS got its name, as just the beginning, sort of, just a very few people were beginning to notice something is going on. There's a problem here. In the wake of, you know, Milk's election in 1977, followed by his assassination in 1978, just throughout, you know, we win and we have things to celebrate and we do great things and have fun, and at the same time are sort of getting smacked across the face with these, you know, challenges. And so many of the folks who participated in that first, you know, Gay Games and subsequent games, you know, wouldn't make it through the AIDS epidemic. So this is a great place to be and to think about that. But I, as someone who was 9 years old when Jean was, you know, and others were beginning the sort of the Gay Games, and also constantly grateful because the fact that folks didn't, you know, go back to the closet, you know, made a real difference for a 9-year-old. I moved to San Francisco when I was 11, so I was still in Laguna. I was a 9-year-old in Laguna Beach at the time, but you know, a lot of us have benefited from the fact that people, even in the midst of all that tragedy, you know, we're still going to have fun and be out and be loud and proud. So thank you. Thanks to everyone who's been involved all these years, and thanks, Reggie, for getting everybody organized and making us show up, and all the people who are carrying the flags. And you must be freezing because I'm really cold. So I think you can keep running again.
He joined us in 2018, and I said we got to have him back again, and hopefully we'll see where you're at in 2026 and get you back again. Who knows what it'll be. All right. Our next stop will be Kezar Stadium.
1986 as I finished my fastest marathon at the end of Gay Games 2. Later on, Tom Waddell, who'd come down with pneumocystis pneumonia earlier that week, was able to leave the hospital and preside over the closing ceremony here. I remember he said, "Athletes, you've made a spectacle of yourselves." He went on to emphasize the importance for all gay people to come out if we wanted to make the kind of progress for which we hoped. He said, "It's not that people don't know us, it's that they don't know that they know us. That they know us, that's why it's imperative that you come out." And his words are still true today.
They are. Amen. They are true. Very good. Gene, did you have anything else to say?
No, other than I'm just so glad you have a big turnout from front runners. This is one of the effects of what Gay Games did, and maybe front runners predated, but everything exploded after Gay Games 1. The swimmers, especially, the bowlers. All of a sudden, there were all of these organizations that were springing up because we were finally finding something that we could identify with and get joy from. You know, I was wrestling all along when I'm straight, living in a closet, and I never had the kind of relationships or friendships or anything that all of my teammates had because I was in that closet. You had to break out of it. And once we had these Gay Games, all of a sudden people go, well, wrestling was the first sport to ever get sanctioned for Gay Games. And it was the only sport that was sanctioned at the first Gay Games. And all of the California people were here, and they saw what we did, and they sanctioned us and gave us everything we ever wanted. And just like he said, they didn't really know us, that they knew us. And we went on to have a relationship with them that was very fruitful. So Tom Waddell really kicked us in the butt and said, you have to get out there and do it. Just don't go to the party. Start putting on the party.
Yes.
This is really important. When you look at where we were as a community when the Gay Games started in 1983, that was a pretty dark time for our community, particularly here in San Francisco and everywhere. And it was not so clear what the future was for our community. So many people were getting sick, so many people were dying, and this was an organization and effort that really showed our community hope for the future. That we were not just going to crawl up into a ball and go away, that we were going to fight for our community's future. And look where we are 40 years later. We still have problems, and there are still fights happening. There are people who are trying to crush us into the ground. And once again, we're not going anywhere. And Gay Games really does give our community continual hope. And also, this is so important in all of the LGBTQ sports leagues. This is a way for people in our community to feel connected, because it's easy, especially in a big city, to become disconnected and to feel like there's nowhere for you. And this is an amazing, amazing community that helps lift people up, keeps people healthy, and again, gives us hope. So thank you so much for everything you do. I'm excited about 40 years. I'm really jealous of everyone who's going to be in Mexico City and Hong Kong. So congratulations. And Brett, I want to give you a long overdue recognition, a certificate of recognition from the California State Senate. So thank you, everyone.
Concluding the first leg of the 2023 International Rainbow Memorial Run to Gay Games 11 in Guadalajara and Hong Kong, right here in San Francisco. This corner is akin to Stonewall and Sheridan Square, where we will finish the New York leg of this year's Rainbow Run. Before we open the new signature square, made by San Francisco native and head of quilt production and conservation for the National AIDS Memorial Quilt, our beloved Gert McMullen, I want to once again thank the San Francisco Frontrunners, San Francisco Track and Field, San Francisco Softball League, and all who participated and volunteered today. Our heartfelt thanks to the National AIDS Memorial, the AIDS Memorial Grove, and the AIDS Memorial Quilt, our benefactor, the Keith Haring Foundation, and all of our partnering organizations, especially International AIDS Prevention Initiative and the ERC Consultants, GMHC, the Federation of Gay Games, and the filmmakers of For the Love of Friends, the documentary about the American Run for the End of AIDS and my work to end AIDS. And a big shout out to my Federation colleague and beloved friend, Reggie Snowden. Thank you, Reggie, so much. My dear friend, roommate and area volunteer, Alan Anderson. Wow, that was a Freudian slip. We saw the Ramses exhibit yesterday, and I saw that Sobek was a name that goes back to ancient Egypt, and that was the name of my first partner, Alan Anderson, and who accompanied me to the San Francisco Grove, the AIDS Memorial Grove yesterday. At the hemophiliac circle, I discovered these words etched into the granite etched into the granite there that could also apply quite appropriately to the entire AIDS crisis. Our hearts bled from love, pain, and suffering, from fear and isolation. We battled on the fringe. Warriors fighting stigma, ignorance, and inaction. We came together as families, communities, and fierce friends to build community and protect one another. We felt betrayal. We learned resilience, and we promise this will never happen again.
Hear, hear.
The International Rainbow Memorial Run is committed to AIDS and breast cancer prevention. For the Love of Friends, our documentary film that I hope you will be able to see on your PBS stations this June for Pride Month. And you'll hear me say about my run around America that it was not only a run to save lives, but to honor lives. Originally, I ran the rainbow flag in memory of Keith Haring and Tom Waddell, Olympic decathlete and founder of the Gay Games. Over the years, we've added to the list. It now includes Gilbert Baker, the creator of the rainbow flag, Rick Peterson, Federation of Gay Games honorary life member, and the first male co-president of the Federation. Federation Director Ricky Stryker and Tom Waddell Award recipient. She was a leader of the LGBTQ community here in San Francisco and a tavern owner. Our quilt, the signature squares have always been an important part of the International Rainbow Memorial Run. Our quilts are not exclusive to cause of death, although predominantly attributed to AIDS and breast cancer. As we unfold the quilt and begin to read names, feel free to leave memorials to anyone you wish to honor. And to remember. I'd like to leave you with these words from Robert Kennedy from a speech he delivered in Cape Town, South Africa in 1966, speaking out against the evil of apartheid, that I learned from David Summers, who I consider to be one of the first AIDS activists who died of AIDS many, many years ago. And I asked him before he died, David, do you mind if I borrow this quote? And I used it all the way around America during my run around the perimeter. Let no one be discouraged by the belief that there is nothing one man or one woman can do against the enormous array of the world's ills, against misery and ignorance, injustice and violence. Few of us will have the greatness to bend history itself, but each of us can work to change a small portion of events, and in the total of all those acts will be written the history of this generation. It is from numberless, diverse acts of courage and belief that human history is shaped. Each time a man or a woman stands up for an ideal or strikes out against injustice, he or she sends a tiny ripple of hope, and crossing each other from a million different centers of energy and daring, those ripples build a current that can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance. God bless you all for being here today. Let us unfold the quilt. Reggie's going to read names, and then I want you to add any names you wish.
Jonna Dement, Roberta Foti, Julia Eva Fria Adis, David Yosef, Bruce Pearl, Ed Ryder, Sylvia Diaz, Mildred Diaz, Kevin Yaskovich, Ricardo Collins, Luisa Diaz, Josephine Diaz, Lucas Gomez, Ricky Gonzalez, Maria Diaz, Stephen Michael Endress, Spence Sutton, Arno Derby, Christopher Mangini. There are many, many more names that we do have, that we recognize all of the time, that we'll continue to read this in tradition at every event that we'll do like this. Do you want to say?
Please add your own names. Bill Concoy.
And we may have some music while you're signing names, possibly.
Mel Sharon. Alan Sobek.
I was lost in dark confusion and thought I'd have to stay. You had to fight for your own bit of light, but you held it high to light my way. Now thanks to you, my friend, I can see that tunnel's end, and I'll repeat till this dying day what you're no longer here to say. Take the flame and pass it on. Spread your light and share the dawn. Grab your chance before it's gone. Take the flame, pass it on. You lit up the night, the mold is on. You set us aflame and allowed us to shine. Your spark was the start we built upon. Take the flame, pass it on. Your light will shine no matter who tries to extinguish the flame. This light of mine will burn for you, so the world will remember your name. It's a whole new game, let's stake our claim. The past is over and gone. Take the flame, take the flame, take the flame and pass it on. Spread your light and share the dawn. Grab your chance before it's gone. Take the flame and pass it on.